stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome everybody to Monday, July 22nd meeting. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes?
Yep.
Okay, can I ask for a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve the hiring of Tracy Campbell, Correctional Officer effective July 15th, 2023.
Motion to approve that hiring.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve employee claims filed with the county auditor in the amount of $280.43.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm just gonna skip the next one. Approve the resignation of Chad Beatty sanitary zoning effective August 9th of 2024.
Motion to approve. That's what the gentleman wants to do.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Motion carries. Place on file the following manure management plans. Greg Becker, Washington Township, Westburg Township, Section 17, Hayden Farms. Buffalo Township, Section 21, Lone Tree Farms LLC, Fremont Township, Section 23, Bear Creek Bacon LLC, Homer Township, Section 22.
Make a motion to put those on file.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. We have a 9:30 meeting.
And he's not here. He said he'd be here about 10 after, quarter after. I don't know, maybe you, Chair, if you want to, maybe we can just. And Brian's not gonna be here until 10. He's coming up from Des Moines, so maybe we can go to the last item there.
Sure, Maggie.
Yes, good afternoon. Wow, I'm trying to rush Monday.
You can come up here if you want, Maggie.
I'm Maggie Berger with Spear Financial. We're financial advisors to cities, counties, school districts, community colleges throughout the state of Iowa. We were asked to come and just kind of give you some background as to Spear. We are a Chicago-based firm. We do have an Iowa office. We're right down the road in Waterloo. I actually live in the other direction. From here, I live at Lake Delhi. So I'm in my office a couple days a week, and then I live at the lake and work from the lake about 2 to 3 days a week, depending on my very busy schedule and where I'm traveling to. As I understand it, the county is looking at implementing possibly we'll call, I don't know if we still call it an EMS or an EMS levy. And what we can do is help the county determine what maybe the capital needs are under that EMS levy, the timing of when those funds would start to come in, and the timing of potentially, not always, but potentially selling debt or issuing bonds to provide the capital needs that you have. In my, I think, original email with some information, I had stated that, typically people are not borrowing money for the ongoing everyday like working capital needs or operational needs where you're paying salaries or you're paying employees. But there's a lot of times where there has to either be something built or some purchases acquired, like equipment, things like that. And a lot of times that's what we can look at doing a bond issue for, those capital projects, those capital purchases right up front, where then you can pay for them with that levy that you have in place for a set number of years. I understand, and I think we talked, you'd be acquiring maybe $900,000 a year in that levy. 900,000 gets you quite a lot of money over about a 15-year period, gets you about $9 million. But again, I don't think that that's probably the need that you have. I also ran a debt service schedule early on for just, conversational purposes. At about $4.6 million, that takes about half of your levy, that $450,000. Again, maybe that's not even the needs you have. Maybe we're talking needs of $1 million or $500,000. Those are just things that we do. We help, we have the conversation, we figure out the timing. From the date that you issue debt, you will have to start making at least interest payments in the first 12 months of that issuance of debt. So again, that's something we would talk through and work with you on. Our job is not an underwriter. We don't buy, sell, or trade the debt. We're not someone who's going to buy your debt. We are someone who's going to prepare it. We're going to help you sell it, market it, and then we'll help you get through all of the closing, all of the paperwork. We're also not your bonding attorney. I'm not a lawyer, but we work with a bonding attorney. There's two firms in Iowa, and you've probably worked with one of them in the past, either the Dorsey and Whitney firm or the Uhlers and Cooney firm. We work with them on a daily basis. They do all the legal stuff. We do all the financial stuff. We review debt capacity. I did look at your county's debt capacity. You have over $122 million of debt capacity, meaning that's the amount you could issue debt against. Counties, again, always have a high debt capacity just because it's made up of your 100% valuation, and so you have valuation countywide, where the city of Independence has less debt capacity because they just have the valuation of just the city. School district would have just the area that's within the school district boundaries. So what kind of questions do you have for me?
One of the things we're looking at is, you can have a seat if you want, or maybe some of you have to stand. We're anticipating a little over $900,000 that we would levy each year.
Mhm.
Our problem we have right now is we're paying our current ambulance service about $400,000 a year to have them work for us. And the county is paying a third of it, the hospital's a third, and the city of Independence pays a third. We are currently, as a county, using ARPA funds, which have to be used up by 2026. So it's imperative that we figure out what we're doing with this levy, so we have funds, or it has to come out of the general.
Which got tighter this year.
Yes.
Right.
And there's so many,
Completely understand that.
so many
We know all the
restrictions.
ins and outs of House File 718, so.
For us to come up with a $200,000
Right.
payment would mean cutting services in other areas.
Correct.
And we can't afford to do that. There's no way. And the city of Independence is barely squeaking by with theirs, paying theirs out of the general basic also. So our general fund cannot sustain the ambulance service, and we have to provide ambulance service for the county. So what we were looking at, if we were to, as example, borrow or bond for $1 million, that would get us money that we could use toward the payments we have to make to AMR. And give us working capital while we wait for the tax receipts to come in twice a year. And it would make the transition a lot easier. Because under our EMS plan, we're wanting to offer our partner ambulance districts in Jessup and in Fairbank a portion of that tax levy to help their ambulance service also with equipment and stipends or whatever it might be. And they're all volunteers.
Okay.
So I guess we're kind of looking at what your thoughts are as far as amount, but my personal feeling was going over $1 million is not really that necessary unless we think it is.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it only makes sense if we run the ambulance service, the county has that ambulance service to where, because ambulances, right now, we're paying for it with tax dollars. Our citizens are having to fund it also because when they have to have a ride or whatever, then
They
they're
get
billed.
charged, right?
The current ambulance service doesn't accept certain insurances. And this way the county could get those receipts back. I mean, we would bill, we would get that money back. So then that money goes back into that EMS pool of funds.
Yep.
And this way that lowers that debt service essentially
Yep.
for a period of time.
Yeah. And so, when would be the possible first time you could, use an EMS? When would you be able to add an EMS levy to your budget? Would it be for fiscal year 26 coming up for the next, like in March when you budget?
If it passed in November, we would not be able to levy until
2026.
2026. fiscal 2020,
fiscal year 26, so you'd be putting it in the budget. So
summer 25.
you're talking about needing some, and we do working capital debt. I will say that that could be taxable debt, which is okay. All that just means is when cities, counties, and schools do public, like infrastructure, public projects that benefit everyone, those projects are tax exempt. And all that means is the people that buy the bonds, the investors, whether they're banks, whether they're individual people, insurance company, mutual funds, things like that, they don't have to pay federal income tax on the amount of interest that you pay them. That's what's tax exempt. So that's why cities, counties, schools can borrow at a little bit lower rate than you and I can walk into the bank and get a mortgage, a car loan, anything like that. That tax exempt rate is somewhere probably between 4 and 4.5% right now, but you can issue taxable debt. And they say taxable debt can be issued for working capital purposes, for operational costs. So if we're needing to just fund some sort of, a pool of money to keep this going until we can start to realize that $900,000 of
Right.
receipts. And it could be short term, it could be, a 2 to 3 year debt where it's just going to be paid back over that time. You absolutely can do that. Then I would assume you're going to have enough money coming in on an annual basis to just fund that.
What I was thinking about was like getting the startup of, because we don't have any equipment, we don't have any.
Right. And that's where there
And
might
that
be a
looks like-
split. Correct. So there might be a split of that bond. So let's talk about that. The equipment, the startup, those types of capital purchases would be tax exempt. So let's just say you guys say, we don't want to issue more than $1 million for all of this, right? You might have a split of maybe 300,000 or 400,000 that's taxable because we need it for working capital. We need to hire people. We need to, do things that we don't have the money for right now. So we're going to do that. But we also need all this equipment. We need to purchase things. We need to order ambulances. I'm sure there's a wait time on things like
There
that.
is.
Anywhere from 18 months to 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you need to order all of that or buy used or whatever you need, then again, we can also issue that. From the perspective that we're already in fiscal year 25, we would have no issues being able, if this passes in November, there'd be no issues with you guys being able to borrow money shortly after that November timeframe and be able to place orders, get orders going, this and that. Because the first time you'd have to make any kind of an interest only payment at the very least would be in fiscal year 26 at that point in time, because we'd be already partially the way through fiscal year 25. So it's not even something that we would even have to float an interest payment in the realm of fiscal year 25. So I think that, you just have to work with your auditor to make sure that ballot, that measure is on the measure is a public measure at this November's election, because I know they have timing, but obviously when I talk to my cities, I always say, call the county auditor, find out from them when they need, like, when is the drop dead date that resolution needs to, be passed by this group. But you guys are sitting down the hall from the county auditor. And so a little bit different
She's
story
normally
there.
sitting in the chair. She's not here today.
So I mean, that, that conversation of just when you need to pass that resolution. And I'm sure there's some language out there. Your bonding attorney probably could also help, but your county may have it. There are other counties that have probably had the same measure. And so you would know what that looks like.
Now, if we bond for this, does that have to be on the ballot? That's not a ballot referendum, is it? Because it would be a revenue response.
So here's the interesting thing. EMS, E911 services became essential county purposes about 15 years ago to counties, which means you can purchase equipment and you can do working capital and all those things without a referendum. If you were going to build a new courthouse, we'd need a referendum. If you were going to build roads into an area of economic development in your county, let's say we're going to build a new road to a co-op somewhere or to some commercial businesses, we're going to replace a bridge that's maybe farm to market, things like that. All of that is essential county purpose and does not need a referendum. So as far as my understanding of the code section, you would not need a referendum to get equipment purchase, things like that, under the
I think there's
E911.
hoops that you have to jump through, and I think there's certain dollar amount levels that you have to, certain public hearings and notifications and
Correct.
everything like that. That all takes a long drawn out process to get that all accomplished.
Yes, so that's where the legal side of things come in. That's where we have a conversation. One of you or two of you, well, not two of you, because then we would have a public meeting. One of you would get on the phone with us and your bonding attorney and the county auditor, and we'd say, let's lay this out. And we absolutely can do that sooner than later. So in that, before that November, but any type of borrowing, whether you're doing any type of, let's say, external borrowing, meaning you're going to go out and sell bonds, we're going to go out and negotiate something, has to have public hearings in the eyes of the code section. There has to be a public hearing if there's not a referendum. So if we had to borrow money for a courthouse, the referendum acts as that public notification. But if we were going to borrow for the EMS type purchases, then that is something that you have public hearings on. Typically, those public hearings, the longest stretch between the date that you would publish the notice and be able to have the meeting is 10 days at the very most. Most of them are 4 and 20-day notices, meaning no less than 4, no more than 20 days in between publication and that meeting. But that's again where we would have a conversation with the bonding attorney, let them give their legal opinion on that and say, okay, this is when the timing would have to happen to be able to do that. And from the bonding perspective, you're right. Start to finish, if I were to rush a bond issue, somebody called me today and said, I want to do this and there's no referendum needed. From start to finish, we're at 75 to 90 days. Just because, again, we've got to set a date of public hearing with a resolution. We've got to publish it. We've got to hold the public hearing. We've got to wait a couple of weeks because there's a document we put together to sell the bonds, which is all about you, the county. Got to sell the bonds. We've got 2 weeks later. I mean, it's just, everything is happening on like a 2-week structure, and it just takes a couple of 3 months to get through that.
But saying that, this is gonna be on the ballot for November.
Correct. The
And
levy,
things won't start.
the levy is going to be on the ballot. yeah.
Right. So things are not gonna start until, this won't instigate and start until
Correct.
July 1.
You can do public hearings and you could do the borrowing if it passes in
Right,
November.
That's what I
Yeah,
say.
Yep.
So there's enough time frame after the vote
correct.
before it can be instigated. And you said something about interest payments have to be made. When would them start? Because we get our tax receipts come rolling in twice a year.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if they don't come in until October.
Yep.
And this instigates and starts in July, when's the first interest payment due?
Right.
There's gotta
So
be money available to do that.
there is. So how I would envision this is that if it passes in November, the levy, and you turn around and you say, we're going to issue some debt in February because we need to place some orders. We need to make payments on ambulances and equipment and
They don't just say, hey, I want an ambulance and they're, hey, let me build it.
Well, and I also want to point out that the authorization of the EMS levy will happen in November. So we know you can place it on your budget. It'll be part of your budget. You'll start to receive those monies when we get into fiscal year 26, which you're right, will be October and like April typically, or when those dollars are all in, right? So in that scenario, let's just say in January or February, you need some money to place some orders. Technically, you could place orders as soon as you canvass the results of the EMS levy, and you can do a reimbursement resolution where, let's just say they only needed 5% down on the ambulance, right? You could take it out of your general funds, and then when we issue debt in January or February, you just repay yourself back with those funds because you have the authorization. Again, through a public hearing, we'd have to have the public hearing on the borrowing itself. But if we were to issue debt in February, the very first time you have to make an interest payment would be within the 12-month period. And interest and principal for cities, public entities in Iowa, you make an interest payment in December. Why? Because you only have half of your tax receipts, and you make a principal and interest payment on June 1 because you have all of your tax receipts by then. So with a bond sale in February, you would be looking at having your first interest payment in December of next year. And December would be fully into fiscal year 26, where you would have receipts coming in October, November timeframe to make that December 1 interest payment.
When will, if this all goes on as we're talking about, if this happens and the voters vote for this and
Mhm.
stuff like that, when will this show up on the taxpayer statement and when will they have to start paying that?
Yeah, it will show up on their fall of 2025 tax statements. So it would show up, so if you pass it this November, then you put it into your budget next spring as your budgeting, which is fiscal year 26, and fiscal year 26 taxes are paid in the fall of 25 and the spring of 26. So it would show up about 1 year from now, because I would assume we're starting to process, I would assume the treasurer's office is starting a very slow process of like organizing tax bills. We typically see those tax bills in maybe mid-August, correct? That they're due by, September 1, September 30th being the, penalty date that would start. I would assume that about a year from now is when those tax statements would start to be processed and they would see that on their tax bill. So it will not be on their tax bill at all this year. It can't be on their tax bill because you've already set the budget for this fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th. Yeah.
And I'm a little apprehensive here about all this, and the reason being is, first of all, this is all hinged on the vote in November.
Correct.
I don't want to sit here as a supervisor and have people thinking that I'm sure this is gonna happen and we're moving forward with it,
Correct. Yep.
It takes 60%.
It does.
It's gonna be a sale. People are resistant.
Does the EMS take 60%?
Yes,
Does it? It's a supermajority like a GO bond?
yes, it
Okay.
does. That was in the legislation, it takes 60%. So, I mean, that's why I
And-
have
and
some
here's-
apprehension here of moving forward with this, because it looks to me like we would have enough time after the vote to start putting
Yeah.
things in place.
So here's what I can tell you from our services, and that's okay. You can hire us, you don't have to hire us. But I can't give you specific details and have specific conversations with you and the bonding attorney without a contract in place. And the reason for that is I have a federal regulation. I fall under the federal regulation of the Dodd-Frank Act, which was the Banking Reform Act of 2014.
Know that one very well.
So basically they said municipal advisors, this is your lane, underwriters, this is your lane, bond counsel, this is your lane. Everyone stays in their lane. But part of our financial services agreement is we're notifying you and saying, these are the things we can do for you. And these are the things federally we can't do for you.
So what's the fee charge?
We don't have a fee charge. So interestingly enough, I get hired all the time and we put something on the ballot and it never passes and we don't charge anything. We charge money to issue debt for you. So we do a lot of free work in the anticipation that, you're going to work to possibly get this passed and educate your voters on what it would do for your communities and your county. And if you never get this passed and you never issue debt, you're not going to owe us a penny. An absolute not going to owe us a penny.
I did include in your packets that I gave you the financial services agreement. We just have to make a motion to have Dawn sign it.
Yeah, it just is not going to cost you anything. Again, we get hired like this by cities all the time. We get hired by school districts who are going to put a GO referendum on a ballot and they never get it passed and they never issue the debt. And that's okay. Your financial services agreement doesn't lock you into doing anything. It just gives me the opportunity to say, I've informed you of who I am and what I can do for you. And now I can talk more specifically with you.
And we will definitely need help putting this together. We can't put it
Yeah.
together by ourselves. I wouldn't even want to try.
And I have worked with Maggie for many years with the City of Independence, and she's been a terrific asset. And that's why I suggested we have her come in and speak with us, because I know they can do a great job for us.
And in fact, when I was on city council, I think we got rid of who we had and we went with Maggie.
So thank you. We work with the city of Jessup. We work with Independence. We do work with Fairbank. We have a large contingency in the Delaware County area, Blackhawk County area, Lynn County. Although we cover the whole state of Iowa, I've got clients in Northwest Iowa and Southwest Iowa and Southeast Iowa. Just, I think because of our office location, we have a large contingency in this eastern half of Iowa. But again, we work with cities, county schools. We're, kind of working with a whole host, which is giving us good information. And again, we would not say that we'd have any conflicts with Independence because you're already in a partnership with them. It sounds like that would move forward. And again, we completely understand the restrictions of House File 718 and what it's doing to everybody's budget. I am never one that's in favor, right, of having to raise people's taxes, but at some point in time, if we want to continue services, this is the option that we're left with at that point. So.
And I know, I mean, I think we only have 2 EMS personnel in Brandon. Like we have EMS personnel throughout all the little pockets throughout all
Right.
of the county, but you know, they need training, they need stuff too, equipment and.
Correct.
You know,
They're
there's
first responders.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. And I will say this, you know, I understand as the county, it becomes, you know, people look at this and I hope I don't say this like out of turn, but people look at you and say, well, why is it your responsibility? And I take a different approach to that and say, well, why isn't it your responsibility? You can fairly tax everybody within your county district by implementing this levy so that you can help train, equip all of the people in your county. I remember when Blackhawk County went to all radios, all on one, you know, all 911 radios, police, fire, and you've got towns that have got full-time fire, you know, Waterloo and Cedar Falls that have full-time fire personnel, right?
Right.
And the county supervisor walked out of a meeting one time, Frank Magsman, he goes, I mean, they want us to pay for all the radios. And I just looked at him, I go, well, Frank, why wouldn't you? And he goes, well, I don't know. And I go, well, but you can fairly tax everybody and have everybody on the same system. And you don't have to worry about debt capacities of these smaller communities and their budgets who cannot, you know, get to that. And he's like, well, okay. And they ended up doing it. I mean, it was a big project for them. But in the end, they've now gone and spoke to all these other cities and counties and said, this is the way you should do it, you know? And so I take a different approach to that because again, this would give a little bit, in my opinion, not fairness, but it just kind of would level things off that you could be helping all the different groups that are out there within
Right.
your community or in your county.
The hard sell is, that Jessup and Fairbank already have a service in place. So therefore, explaining why it isn't a double tax
Mhm.
is a little bit hard.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that's a little hard.
Do
to
you,
sell.
do you offer them mutual aid agreements though?
Yeah.
With this would all mutual aid and it's not that you couldn't, with this. I mean, you also, I would assume under this EMS could do a grant program where you could grant out some money. So those other services that are established services, maybe they could get a grant for some equipment down the road or
Actually,
things like that where they could apply.
In
for
our
it.
essential service plan that they put together, a portion of it goes to, I think it's 67% goes to independence
Area.
for,
That's the largest area.
Correct.
and then 160 some thousand goes to Jessup,
Mhm.
and then another
50?
50,000, I think, goes to Fairbank
Yeah,
to supplement their.
right, the
equipment.
supplement, which is good.
They keep
Good.
They
their,
can use it as
whatever.
they,
yeah,
Good, yeah,
whatever their 75% of
Yes.
whatever their valuation is stays there to
gotcha.
help supplement their ambulances.
Great.
I mean, as long as the cities view it that way and don't try to take money away.
well, in the state, it's kind of funny like that. They say that you're not supposed to penalize.
You can't, yeah,
Yeah.
there is that law.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we, all of our financial services agreement, again, it doesn't lock you into anything. Just gives me the ability to have more in-depth and really specific conversations with you and your bonding attorney prior to being able to get this on the ballot, being able to then process immediately after, because I will tell you typically, if something passes at a referendum that somebody's been waiting on, I mean, you guys canvass the results and I hear from like that entity the next day. They're like, let's start having
Oh, yeah.
a very specific conversation. And so,
I would make a motion that we have the chair sign the financial services agreement with Spear Financial.
Got a motion on the table. Do I have a second? I'll second the motion.
Now,
Is there
please ask for further discussion.
any further discussion?
With all this stuff, we're filling our auditor right in the middle here with some issues and stuff. She'll be on this. She's not here today. And when we enter any kind of agreement, we've always run things back and got the blessings from our county attorney and stuff like that. For those two reasons, I want both those individuals to do a review, what they feel about this agreement before I would vote for it. And that hopefully would come about in a week or so. That's why I want those two individuals to be on board. They're gonna be partners, they're gonna be involved with this with us, so we gotta make sure that we let them in on discussion here and decision making on this. Because I don't know our ultimate decision, but we go by what they have for input on it too.
Okay.
And get back with us. So that's the reason I'm wanting to make a motion or second, and I would like to delay this until them two individuals take a look at this and I find out their thoughts. That being the auditor and the county attorney. Because he is very adamant to us that he's given us a lot of guidance that he highly recommends that we don't enter agreements until he's did a review on them.
You want to amend your motion to allow the county attorney to review this prior to me signing?
I will do that.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So the
All opposed?
motion is to give the auditor and the county
No,
attorney.
just the county attorney. Because he's the one that does the legal stuff.
So we're not gonna involve the auditor in this.
It's a contract.
Yes, it is. But she's gonna be the one that's gonna be this.
She'll be
forward.
She'll be part of the bonding part of it. All we're doing is using a service to put it together for us so that she doesn't have to try to put it together for us.
I think it's ultimately our decision as a board to make that, and I think it's our decision. I'm all for getting the county attorney to bless it, go with that. I just know that if you look at the list of references that have used Spear over the years and the list of areas around us that use it, I don't see the hesitation, but I will go along with going through the county attorney just to get his blessing.
Okay.
My thoughts.
You'll have two in favor and one opposed.
We're gonna need to do roll call.
Roll call.
Aye.
Kurt's aye, Vogel aye.
Or nay.
Okay,
Okay,
well, we'll be in touch, Maggie.
that sounds
I
great. Thank you.
appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
no, thank you for having
Come
me
and
over
see
this
us.
morning. Thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much,
you.
everyone.
Good seeing you again.
Yes, it was very nice to get out
Thank
of
you.
the office this morning.
Joy.
Right, and Ryan, the shared partner, is not quite here yet.
I think, I'm gonna walk the hallway, I think the West is here for foundation recovery. Oh, I had something peek through the window here anyway.
What's his name? Left.
Are you, all right. You can come on up front here. Morning.
Morning, how are you doing? Good to see you again. Good commute?
Yeah, not bad. I'm from Cedar Rapids, I don't know if you guys know, but our main office is in Des Moines area, Ankeny actually, so. But we've been in business for over 32 years and we're a national company, 60 locations plus Canada, so.
Well, let's start off first. So, I mean, we're recorded here and stuff like that, so the people that are on,
Okay.
so they understand what's going on here.
Okay.
We have had we all know that we're aware of our moisture, water basement problem down here. We got at the courthouse
Mhm.
and working on a plan of attack and we can address it and to make sure a catastrophe doesn't happen down in an area where the electrical panels are at and stuff, and
Yeah.
and try and eliminate the deterioration that's going on down there in our walls and stuff like that, so.
Mhm.
We have seeked out quotes, proposals from different companies on this, and your foundation recovery is one of them.
Yeah.
So I asked these individuals to come in and explain their proposals to us and how they look at being able to address that problem, so.
Okay.
Wes is here from Foundation Recoveries to give us a report on his proposal.
So, yeah, like I said, been in business over 30 years and national company. Warranties are nationally backed also. So if our office in Ankeny went out of business, you'd still have a warranty on what we do. But we keep growing every year, so that's not gonna happen as far as we can foresee, but anyway. We use patented products that are specific for basement waterproofing. And even our sump pump system is a patented system, so we have, a configuration, it's called a triple, sump pump system, which consists of 2 sump pumps and then also a battery backup pump. And so what that is, and I've got a short video I could show you from we've got engineers on staff too, or whatever, I could show you just a short video if you want on my iPad, or is that okay, or do you want to hear a little bit
How
about
long does
that?
that take for that? We got somebody coming in at 10
Okay,
for a presentation,
so
so,
it's like about 2 minutes.
okay, that's good.
Okay. And I can answer any questions you guys have as far as specifics and stuff too, but you probably won't be able to all see this, but at least let you hear it anyway.
You,
Or set it here, or okay, here so you guys can.
The heart of any crawl space waterproofing system is the sump pump. Unfortunately, not all sump pumps are created equal, and most will fail at some point, leaving you with structural issues, damaged building materials, and stored items. But more importantly, it directly contributes to mold growth and rot. Failure happens for one of 3 reasons. The pump stops working, the pump is overwhelmed during heavy rains, or power is lost due to a storm or a tripped circuit breaker. The AquaStop Triple addresses all 3 issues. As the name implies, the system features 3 independent pumps in one patented basin. The 3 pumps are staged on 2 integrated pump racks, and each pump has its own reed cage protected float switch. Here's what that means to you. The primary pump is responsible for moving water under normal circumstances. Should this pump have a mechanical failure, the rising water level activates the second pump, which is set slightly higher in the basin. Should the first pump not be able to keep up in a heavy storm, the second pump is activated by the rising water level, and both pumps now work together to effectively evacuate the captured water. If power is lost and the water rises above the level of both these pumps, a third sump pump, which is connected to a battery backup, now takes over. In the unlikely event that water passes all 3 operating ranges, the AquaStop monitoring system alerts you to rising water, allowing you to take preventive action. The AquaStop Triple provides the highest level of protection. You can sleep easy knowing you will never have to worry about a flooded basement again.
So that first pump will pump 3,200 gallons per hour. And then the second pump is 2,770. And then the battery backup would be 1,850 gallons per hour. And that can run 12 hours continuous, which pumps normally kick on and off, but it'd be a continuous 12-hour on one charge. And the charging system is mated to the battery. The battery is a gel self-contained battery. So those are actually mated together so that they don't overcharge or undercharge. Because we don't have that just right, it could fry the battery and then it doesn't work when you need it. So that charging system is made specifically for that battery. And, it has an alarm, like I said, if you have water that comes up above and hits that lid, top part of the lid, it'll give you an alarm that there's something going on down there too, so.
That, where it kicks in an alarm, can that, would that be able to report to our alarm system here and have that alarm come into our dispatch?
Possibly, it can be, Bluetooth to, any device you want to use it for. So yeah, it can, your cell phone or whatever, we can do it that way too, so.
Yeah,
I can-
because
I
I
can-
mean, it happens here in the evening or on the weekend,
Mhm.
and that alarm down there is going off. Nobody's gonna hear it,
Yeah,
except the critters.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
and so we need it to report to somebody, so word can get out to whoever's on call, can
Mhm.
come in here and figure out what's going on.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't take care of a seepage problem though.
Oh, this is just a portion of it though.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, as far as your concrete goes, yeah, there's not anything our company would be able to do with the concrete as far as deterioration there, but yeah, the sump system, I can definitely take care of both those. And then they'd each have their own discharge line too, so we're not fighting for space to get the water out of the building. So you're actually gonna have 4 discharge lines, 2 for each sump pit. And that would be, you'd have, of course, the 2 pumps and then the battery backup. And obviously the battery backup, if it kicks in, the other 2 pumps aren't working, so it's gonna share one of those lines. But yeah, we'll have actually 4.5-inch PVC lines going from those 4 pumps out.
so you're gonna be able to tie into the existing pipe that's going out to the west. I think that's a 4-inch,
Mm-hmm.
and are you gonna adapt and go out to them, or you figure on discharging some other way?
Figuring tying into what you have going on there, because we normally go into a 4-inch pipe anyway, so, yeah.
So you'd have several pipes, separate piping going to that area.
Mhm. Right,
The way that's piped right now is a really Mickey Mouse setup.
Well, I think the Three Stooges did it.
yeah.
I don't have any problem utilizing the
Yeah.
actual discharge line, but that all needs to be
Right,
completely.
and I think
redone.
that's in his proposal to redo that, because you've seen that where that single line is going into a T, there, you know,
Hmm.
you're getting too much resistance with your discharge, the way that's piped.
Exactly, yep, yep. Yeah, the one's feeding into the other, and that other one's, kicking on and feeding.
It's having to fight it and
Yeah. So I remember that.
And now, what was you gonna, in your proposal, where the main thing is the east wall,
Folder.
there's no trenching or drainage there
Mhm.
to bring that to the sump pump. In your proposal, what are you looking at for making sure that this water gets to the sump area?
So that proposal is just replacing, actually jackhammering out the pits that you currently have and making them bigger for our bigger system. And then digging that out, putting it in, put rock around, reconcreting the floor around there. So our proposal's redoing the sump pits themselves and the pumps and all that. I didn't propose the wall liner or the basement gutter system that goes in the floor because I wasn't sure what you guys were doing with the concrete part of it. So, and then there's also some things there on the wall that would have to be removed or unfastened so we could put the wall liner up too. So,
So the only thing in your proposal was a system.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, the pumps themselves. There's the one that's behind the I'm sure that thing, that big
Here,
air handler.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's one behind there, and then there's one in that lower part where we opened up the door and went down the steps in that
Right.
lower area. Yeah.
so your plans are to do something with that sump pump that's there by the air handler?
Mm-hmm.
And the other one.
And the other
And the
one, both of them, yeah.
They'd have to have the pits enlarged for these units to be able to fit into there. Cause with 3 of them, it's gonna take a lot more space.
Yeah, so it's what we call a twin liner configuration, so it's a little bigger, put everything in there, and then it's a sealed lid. Just screwed down. Also has floor drains built into them too, so. But as far as like the wall liner and the channel itself and the floor, I didn't propose that because I wasn't sure what you guys are doing with the walls yet, so.
Would you be able to do that? Because that stuff that's sandwiched on there, that's from the old phone system and everything where communication used to come into the courthouse and everything. And that's been all eliminated now. We're going to different systems and stuff. So I think all that stuff can be stripped off of that wall.
Okay. Yeah.
To get something, a proposal to take care of that wall. There's been a lot of moisture coming in on that wall there.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely do that. I can do that wall and do the wall on the lower part too, where we went down the steps. And run that to that.
And what about that
That
other
system.
place where it pours in?
Back in the corner, if you know, when you come down there, you walk into that air handler room.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk, before you go around the air handler, you look straight ahead. I would call it the south wall.
Mm-hmm.
That needs something done too, because water comes in down there in that wall, so.
Okay. Yep, I can do a liner there and then the channel. So the wall liner, that's, it's a vinyl liner and it's molded with polyester core reinforcement, so it doesn't rip or tear. I've had big guys try to tear it, it doesn't tear. It's molded with antimicrobial, so it doesn't mold or mildew. And then we use drilled in fasteners to fasten it so it won't come off. And it seals that wall up so mold doesn't grow behind there either. So then that any wall water that going to the basement will go behind that liner down into our channel, which will be under your floor. There's a wall drain built into our channel. So I'll show you pictures what this looks like.
The channel that goes to the sump pump then.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what the channel looks like before we put concrete back over it. After we jackhammer out 6 inches of the floor and then we dig that down to the footing, clean that out, and then we put that channel in with rock and everything in there too, and then we'll reconcrete that. But that liner on the wall is that's what would be on there. Yeah, just a nice white, clean liner.
Bring that up.
Yeah.
And then when we're done, that's the floor after new concrete's put on there.
So anything that would have to be left on the wall, any piping coming in through or anything like that, you're able to work around that.
Yeah, if you like right here, if you just unscrew it, we can just slide the liner right up behind it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we'd have to unscrew that. How much?
Yeah.
What happens if something comes through? I can't remember. Does anything come through those walls?
Yes,
if something does, we can cut around that and just tape around it.
and some of that old plumbing you don't want to be loosening.
Yeah.
Don't really want-
Yeah, so like we go around windows and normal basements and stuff like that too, but yeah, we can go around pipes and stuff and, so that comes in rolls and there's gonna be, a roll of it on the top and then we'll do the bottom and it overlaps and then we got tape that tapes the seam and so we can use that same tape around pipes and stuff.
But to me, we need to see a proposal on this too, because we're only halfway getting there with the sump system.
Yeah.
I think we need to address it fully.
Mhm.
It's not saying it couldn't be piecemeal, but,
Right. Well, we also,
we'll have to see what the cost is here
Mhm.
and stuff. But this has been an ongoing concern. And as you know, when I had you down there, you can see where somebody tried doing some band-aiding down there, which
Okay.
did not work.
Right.
And the thing about it is where the electrical distribution panels in there, I think that's gotta be protected because even if we lose power coming in here from the city utility and stuff like that, and we go to the generator,
Mhm.
if that panel, electrical distribution panel room is flooded down there, generator's not doing you any good because everything feeds through that too.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's why the main thing is make sure we have a reporting system also and the battery backup.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna put everything down.
Yeah.
If that floods.
That's good.
So, yeah, if you can get that to us, Wes, I think the board needs to see that,
Yeah.
kind of finish up the whole project.
Yeah,
Well, we got, there's also that one spot that on the one wall where water drips in from the top.
Yeah. But I think that's up to us. We're gonna have to try and do some more out
I
here.
mean, I don't know if it's following along from where it's coming in out here and then going along the top.
Right, I think it probably is, so.
That's
I
from
think we
that
got some-
generator base area.
And up next to the wall, I think, so we might have to look at doing some more concrete work out there, which would be minimal and get that sealed really well to make sure everything is drove to the east.
so take care of the east walls, the one behind the air. What do you call it?
Air handler.
Air handler.
Yeah.
So that room with the air handle of that east wall, and then also do the east wall in that lower portion where
And-
there's some.
And then that one south wall,
The one south wall.
right, to walk into the air handler room there.
Yep, I remember, you know,
Mhm.
all we
Yeah.
got that, yeah, okay. While I'm here, I'll just go down and look at that again
Sure.
and take measurements again. I think I have on file, but I just wanna make sure while I'm here.
Sure.
That's okay, so,
Lyle, our custodian, ought to be around. I can try and reach him or something.
okay,
I don't know if he'd be at this right this time. He does the mail too, so
okay,
I can contact him and have him meet you and get you down there so you can do your investigation and
sure, sounds good,
take pictures of whatever you need down there.
yeah. And then our warranty is, lifetime of a structure warranty, so when we do waterproofing along those walls, it's just guaranteed for as long as the building stands. And, his call us, we'll come fix it if there's any issue.
Okay.
No charge, so.
Is there anything, any other questions?
Hey, Lyle. Foundation Recovery guy is here. Wes is his name. Could you take him down into the boiler room area and that air handle room area? He needs to take another look at things down there, because we asked him for an additional proposal, so. Yeah, he's in the boardroom and he'll be leaving and walking out here just in a minute or so. All right, thanks. Bye. He'll be up, meet you at the door here, Wes.
Okay, great.
Thanks, appreciate you coming in.
No
Yeah.
problem. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Morning, Karen. Karen, we'll go around the corner for a minute.
Absolutely. We have 10 minutes before Ryan gets here anyway. So how goes it?
Mhm.
Is it a good morning or a bad morning?
Not too bad.
Did look at that job description. Did Chad have any other recommendations on it?
Chad's job description. I sent it to all three of you.
Yeah,
Yeah. I thought it was good.
I think it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked him to review it too, just to be sure. I think he hasn't gotten back to me, but he did mention about splitting some of those duties or giving Amber might be able to do,
Okay.
but the problem is since some of it's under the Board of Health, it's gotta be pretty high,
Okay.
unless you guys decide to split those duties.
I think it's gotta stay together.
As the Board of Health duties would be anything regarding septic system, water testing. I know that's been talked about
Nuisance calls.
in the past, but
That also helps compensate him.
It creates a full-time job.
Yes.
So when it comes to interviewing process time, public health boards have to be involved.
Yeah, I kind of thought it would be nice to, the three of us, one person from planning and zoning and one person from the Board of Health. Or two of us. I don't have to be involved.
That makes sense.
And figure out the score sheeting process, interview questions that is gonna
Yeah,
be
unless you,
fitting for,
if you have any questions you want to ask, if you want to send them to me, just, that'd be fine. Otherwise, I'll kind of look at the questions when we interview Chad. And some that we've done here recently. I'm also gonna start working on my job description for my replacement. So I can get that posted.
I think we ought to freeze retirements and terminations.
That would be good.
one's happening December 31st, hell or high water.
No.
Yeah, there's been a,
I had to fight turnover all the time in 40 years in the private sector. Now I gotta turn around and do it now.
I know.
oh, so you're the
That'd be
blame
crazy.
why it's all
Yeah,
happening.
it must be me.
I haven't seen this many. As there has been here lately.
Well, everybody's retiring out. You know, I mean, start aging out, then.
Well, and that's it. It's gonna hit your road department.
Mhm.
Ambulance searches. Aging out. There he is.
Hey, Ryan.
Morning.
Morning.
Might as come up.
You waiting for me?
Yeah, come right up forward.
All right.
You got moving faster than we thought.
Yeah, very good. How's everybody doing?
Very good.
Good. All right. Am I late?
No,
Was I on at 10? Okay, all right.
The other gentleman just left about 5 minutes.
I do not like being late, so. Okay. Beautiful morning to drive up here.
Very good.
We're gonna talk about your health insurance plan and kind of a mid-year check-in on how things are going. Leave that extra copy. I think Chris is gone today. Yeah. Okay. So I guess before we get into the binder, your plan is performing pretty well overall when we look at what Wellmark expects for claims to where you're actually trending. However, we have a concerning increase in pharmacy spend over the last year. Our pharmacy costs have gone up about 250%. And that's all being driven by a couple drugs, high cost specialty drugs. The data's in the presentation. I'm not going to name drug names or conditions. You can research that on your own.
Everybody had a pretty good idea though.
Yeah, I just, in a public setting like this, I'm better off not going into that much detail, but it's here and it's provided. But our overall pharmacy costs have gone up
You're talking for,
200 to 300% year over year from, you'll see it in the data, over the last 12 months. We've seen a 250 to 300% increase in our pharmacy spend
That's because of the cost and not the usage.
because of two high. Yeah, usage went up a little bit, but it's the cost of two drugs in particular. One drug's about $25,000 per prescription. But it's treating a condition that, I'm sure that member is very thankful we have coverage for that drug. And it's a drug that I see amongst many health plans. Historically, at least since I took over, your pharmacy spend was well below the norm. So we're starting from a point that was much lower than what the average group was seeing in pharmacy spend on a per member per year basis. But now we're at and above that benchmark, but it's gonna look dramatic to you because your pharmacy spend historically has been so competitive.
So you might say we're above the norm now,
Yeah,
before we were below the norm.
yeah, yeah, but as a whole, when we look at pharmacy and medical combined, you're performing just fine. And I talked to Chris, the reserve is,
0.8.
yeah, I think at the time I talked to her, she said actually over 2 million. It just went over, and that was just a week and a half ago.
But the payouts go up.
Yeah, it's always a fluctuating number, but it's close to $2 million, which based on where it was when we started working together, it's gone up dramatically. So,
There was some red ink use.
yeah, yeah, getting over to Wellmark, we have a much deeper discount on medical claims. Pharmacy was gonna be an increase if we stayed at Augzient or not.
Right.
But the medical claim discount going from 25% to 50% has saved the county a tremendous amount of money. Yep. So if you open your presentation to tab 1, the first report is the 2024 year-to-date aggregate report. And this is the high-level overview of your self-funded health plan. So on the left-hand side, we have months January through June. And you'll see the breakdown between facility, practitioner, and pharmacy. So in 6 months, we've spent roughly 50,000 on pharmacy. That's what we spent in all of 2023. Now, with the increase in pharmacy spend, manufacturers pay Wellmark what's called a rebate to be an approved drug on the formulary. So our members have access to this drug. It's a dirty game. Manufacturers of pharmaceuticals pay insurance carriers to be covered. Wellmark thankfully pays you as the plan sponsor because you're self-funded and not fully insured. They pay that back to you. And so that's going to annualize. And I have a report at the very end of the presentation. And you get paid these rebates quarterly. It's about $325,000 that comes back to the plan off this annualized pharmacy spend. So if we're annualizing to spend 900,000 on pharmacy, which is what this report shows, you're going to get 35% of that back as a rebate that's a credit to the self-funded health
It
plan.
goes back into the fund.
Right back into the fund. Yeah, and there's so that $25,000 drug could pay a $10,000 monthly rebate or $15,000. On those super high cost drugs, they heavily incentivize insurance carriers to be in a covered drug. So we're gonna see as these high cost drugs have hit us, the rebate income's gonna go right with it. So as you look at this report, facility and practitioner, we're spending about $830,000, $40,000 on medical, $445,000 on pharmacy, for a total of just under 1.3 million. But we've had a lot of high cost claimants this year. So that stop loss credit section of $432,000, those are dollars paid back by Walmart to the plan because members have exceeded $75,000. So we have 5 members already through 6 months that have exceeded 75,000, which is a dramatic increase over the prior year as well. So if you take $432,000 in stop loss credits that they've paid the county back in 6 months, that's annualizing to about $900,000 in credits. We're paying Walmart about $500,000 in premium. So if things continue, Walmart's going to lose a tremendous amount of money on the stop loss insurance. We're paying them $500, they're going to reimburse us $900.
Mm-hmm.
And this high cost drug is going to continue. It's a monthly script. So it's likely to continue for the next 6 months. So you take
This drug is not something that individuals take to get treated for a condition and then they're off of it. This is a maintenance drug.
I believe it's a maintenance drug. Yep. Yep. For the condition. Yep. Yep. And I'm not a pharmacist, but it's a drug that I see routinely, for this condition. So if you take 1,284,000 and you subtract 432, you get to net claims of 852,000. The year-to-date maximum is in the column to the right, 1,334,000. So I include these notes at the bottom. This is not normally included on the report. So that 1,334, that's 125% of what Walmart expects. So if you divide the maximum claims by 1.25, the expected claim total through 6 months is 1,067,000. You're at 852, so you're running at just under 80%. So in total, your health plan is performing really pretty well. And that's why your reserve is going to continue to grow. But it is alarming, our pharmacy spend, and again, it's driven primarily by two drugs. It's up 250 to 300%. The next report is a year-to-date 50% report and the prior year. So this shows any members that exceeded 50% of the deductible that we bought from Walmart. The top section is last year. And you're going to see the individual maximum is 65,000. We had a $65,000 deductible last year. And all of those year-to-date totals on the right-hand side are the members that exceeded half of 65 or 32,500. At the bottom, you can see our individual maximum increase to 75,000. So we increased our deductible on stop loss for 2024. We got a premium savings to do that. But we have 5 members that have exceeded $75,000. We have one member just under 300,000 through 6 months and another member just under 200,000 through 6 months. So I do anticipate the stop loss renewal from Walmart to not be, it's not going to be single digits. It's going to be 15, 20% on the stop loss portion of what we spend. So on that $500,000 premium, I would, in my mind, it's going up at least 100,000, if not more. If we weren't with Walmart, if we were still with Sun Life or some of the other carriers, when we were with Auxient, you'd be looking at a much larger increase, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 increase. They want to make money. They're not in the business to lose money. Walmart pools all of their stop loss premium together across the state. And so they treat poor performing groups like ours much better than the outside market. But again, our reserve is still growing because our premiums were so inflated when you're with Auxient that I'm not sure we need to consider a rate change. I think at this point, we probably still don't have to, because we're just going to continue to push that reserve up to a point where it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And
You have a
and
very,
we can take another look. I think you come up usually like in October.
Yeah, that's when I'll have
and then
you,
we'll
yep,
take another, in 3 months, we'll be taking
Yep.
another hard look at this before we get into budget time.
exactly. Yeah, but at this point, I think your renewal overall, the fixed cost portion of the premium will be a 20% increase, but I think the overall increase could be 3 to 5%. Because you're running well from a expected claim to actual, we're running at 80%. Anytime you're around 80%, it's going to be a very low single digit increase on the expected claim factors.
That's 80% is kind of a trigger point, or
If you figure every year, Walmart has a trend increase of between 8 and 10%. So if a group's at 100% of expected claims, they expect those claims to go up between 10 and 12% the next year. So you're going to get that increase automatically, and then it's adjusted based on the group. But we have a big buffer. We have a 20% buffer between where we're performing and what Walmart expects. So I still think your renewal is certainly single digits overall. But again, the renewal, how Walmart's calculating this and what we're charging ourselves for premiums are two different things. Walmart has no idea how we fund our plan. And again, those premiums that we've had in place for a long time were premiums that we had with Auxient. We didn't want to go backwards, but you made the plan better. I think 2 years ago, we reduced employees' deductibles and out-of-pockets. And then this next page in this section, the last one is the 2023 aggregate report. So you can kind of see the first 6 months of 24. Here's the full aggregate report for 2023. And this report just finished from 2023. We have a 12-18 stop loss contract, which means this contract covers claims incurred in 12 months, but paid for 18. So we have run out protection. Medical claims don't process and pay in real time like pharmacy do. They take time to pay. There's a lag. And so we buy a contract that gives us 6 months of lag protection for the county. But you can see we totaled 1,929,000 in total claims, 452,000 in stop loss credits. So again, Walmart's annualizing this year to reimburse us twice the amount that they did last year for stop loss. And at the very bottom, we ran at 72%. So you had a very good year in 2023, which is why you got a 0% renewal last year from Walmart.
Not gonna be that good this year.
It's not going to be 0%, but it's, I don't think it's any more than 5 to 7 overall. But again, we're still making contributions to our plan that are above and beyond what Walmart's charging us, or would be charging us if they could charge us a premium.
Brian, why the 5 months in the 2024 so low? Is that
Be-
just,
Because it's incurred in 12, paid in 18, so there's no more incurred claims. It's just claims that were incurred prior to 12/31
Okay.
that pay with a lag. And so you'll see pharmacy basically goes to nothing into 2024 because those claims pay at the pharmacy. Where medical claims you'll see will continue. They trail off, but that's why you're seeing a huge reduction. Walmart does a good job. They pay 99% of claims, I think they say, within 75 days. So they're a very good payer of claims and they do it in a timely manner. So that was a phenomenal year. Your reserve grew well over $500,000 that year because our contributions met expected claims and you ran $568,000 underneath expected. That's why it's not taking long to get to 2 million, but we are catching up to our premiums with some increase in utilization. Tab 2 will be a kind of a deeper dive into the pharmacy spend and in the utilization history. There's a lot on these reports, but what I want to point out at the very top, actually the third line item down, the paid amount. And this is broken down by quarters. The first column is Q2 of 23. The last quarter is Q2 of 24. So that's a 1 year difference in time.
wow,
We went from $78,000 in claims paid in Q2 of 23 to $223,000 in claims paid in Q2 of 24. So almost a 300% increase. The prescription count, so the actual amount of utilizers and the amount of scripts dispensed, went from 969 to 1133. So a 15% increase in utilization, but a 300% increase in cost. The generic utilization, your employees do a good job using generics when they're available. You're at 89% starting in 23, 88% in 24, which is right at the Walmart average. So we don't have any abuse going on where folks are not taking generic drugs when they're available and they're treating the condition.
Has this got anything to do with maybe some are not available in generics?
Some generics just don't work for folks. And certain conditions, some people react differently to generic drugs than they do brand name drugs. Most of this is specialty drugs. And you'll see the breakdown. So brand drugs have a small impact on this increase, but specialty drugs are what's driving the huge cost increase. And typically those are injectable drugs. Almost always exceed $5,000 a month in cost. We have one that's costing the plan about $25,000 per script per month. Yep, so about a $300,000 annual drug. The next page, this is going to be a review of all the non-specialty drugs. So they do non-specialty as a class and then specialty as a class. So for non-specialty, you can see the prescription counts, and those are almost match what we looked at on the other page because almost every drug dispensed on your health plan, except for very few, are non-specialty. The generic percent of utilization is very high at 90%. The paid per prescription, so this on the third column down, of all non-specialty drugs, we started at 4107 per script, and we're currently at 5309. So about a 20% increase in all of the generic and brand name drugs that are dispensed through our plan. Over a 1 year period, pharmaceuticals typically go up between 7 and 10% just based on the actual cost from the manufacturer. And then we had a slight increase in utilization. But generic and brand, this is very normal. We're seeing a 15 to 20% increase year over year with almost every health plan we manage. But if you go 2 more pages back to page 4 of 4, this is going to be the breakout for specialty drugs. So Q2 of 23, we had 14 specialty prescriptions dispensed. In Q2 of 24, we had 26. So we just about doubled our utilization. But if you go all the way to the bottom, the paid per prescription went from $2,800 a script to $6,300 a script. So again, almost a 300% increase. So our script totals just about doubled, but our cost per script almost tripled on these specialty drugs. And then the next page, you'll start naming the drug names. The first drug listed is the very expensive drug. You actually, if you go one more, let's see, page 3 of 4 in this report, so 2 more pages will show the paid per prescription, so you can see what the actual cost is per month. And you'll see $24,991, and then there's another very expensive drug at just under $15,000 per script as well. So those are the 2 specialty drugs that are driving most of the cost. And then we have some diabetic drugs that are very common amongst every group that we look at. Mounjaro, Ozempic. I want to make sure we talk and address, I know I had spoken with Karen about weight loss drug coverage, and we'll talk about that after we can kind of get through these reports. But as you're thinking about that conversation for weight loss drugs, you can see the cost per script for Mounjaro and Ozempic. Those are 2 of the very popular type 2 diabetes drugs that are used for weight loss. They're about $1,000 a month. And then the last report, you go all the way to the very last page in this section. This is your pharmacy rebate report for your county. And these reports come every quarter. The most recent report was in June, and they pay in the rear. So Q1 pays in June. So there's a lag from when this pharmacy rebate actually pays and applies to the plan, but it totaled $84,000 for the quarter. So in the month end of June, Buchanan County's plan got credited this $84,000. And a huge percentage of that $84,000 is coming from those top 2 drugs.
At least we got credit.
Yeah, you get it's about a 35% overall average rebate that's coming from your pharmacy spend. And this is a dollar for dollar goes right back into your fund. Any questions on these reports?
On Walmart, do they get, assuming that they don't negotiate with these companies with the drug costs and stuff?
Yep.
See, that's one thing you explained last time. Walmart's got a lot more negotiating power than any other company.
Yep, so Walmart uses CVS as their pharmacy benefit manager. So Walmart doesn't actually do the negotiating for the drugs, but they negotiate with the negotiator of the pharmaceutical. So they actually did just re-upped their contract with CVS, and their contractual discounts starting in January of 25 when we renew are going to get more advantageous for the client. So they're going to be a deeper discount on all generic and brand name drugs. Wellmark had a strong contract with CVS. This new contract that will take effect in January is gonna be even much stronger.
Mhm.
So they do a good job of managing their pharmacy spend. With Auxian or other TPAs where you separate, Med One did a good job. I liked Med One a lot. That was the flexibility that you had when you're with Auxian, where you could use a different pharmacy benefit manager than what your TPA was. With Wellmark, we have to use who they designate as their partner, and that's CVS. So we can't use Med One anymore, but I do think CVS is certainly on par with Med One. Due to their market share, I have to believe that they're negotiating a deeper discount.
Ryan, the two top drugs there
Yep.
weren't for a year yet. Would they have been because somebody had a surgery or?
Let's see. So that's just 2024. So not all of these reports go back. So that's just gonna be January through June, and maybe someone got two in the first month, or it could be based on timing. Yep. Yep, that's a good question. But those all have quantity limitations, so folks can only get they can only get a month supply at a time. Typically, that's not coming in a 90-day supply. That's all temperature controlled typically for most of those injections. Some of those injections may be done at the doctor's office as well. So again, overall, things
It's
that's
done
okay.
by an injection. So if they go, say, if a facility, let's say if they go to Buchanan Health for an injection,
Yep.
is that all considered? I mean, somebody's got to administer that.
Yeah,
So
there's
is that the administering fee? Is everything's included in there? Is that
No,
billed separately?
that's all separate. Yep. Not, these two both may be administered at home. I haven't looked into that much detail on these two drugs. A lot of them can be administered at home. But if they go to the facility, they're charging a separate
It's
facility
broken
fee to
down.
administer that. Yes, absolutely.
I'd be willing to bet most of these are administered.
There's a large percentage of specialty drugs that are now. Historically, they haven't been, but the way things have changed over the last 5 to 10 years, most specialty drugs are administered at home. Yep. Okay, let's go back to tab 1. And we can talk about weight loss drugs. And this is a conversation that I have with a lot of groups. Have had for the last 12 to 18 months. Wellmark to date has only had 8 groups, self-funded groups that they know of that have approved coverage for weight loss drugs. So very,
Higher statewide.
just Wellmark in Iowa. Yep. So a very small percentage. I think 2 of those 8 reversed their decision because of the cost impact. They underestimated what it was going to cost. One of the 6 remaining, I actually insure, and it's a school district. We went into that decision with a budget. They did a survey to employees. If we offered coverage for weight loss drugs, would you be interested? Based on that survey, I think we had, and it was a group size of there's about 170 employees on the plan. So a little bit larger than Buchanan County, but the overall membership, so employee, spouse, child, would be probably pretty comparable because this school district doesn't pay much for spouse and dependents.
Mhm.
Like you're paying a large portion of the premium for everyone. The utilization came back at about twice what we expected. And so we had budgeted, I told them to budget $15,000 per person that we thought would take the weight loss drug. I think we budgeted 250,000, and I think the actual cost is closer to 450. And that's a group that's larger than yours, but not that much larger. When you look at overall employees and spouses that would be primarily eligible for these types of medications.
Is there any study that's been done on this? Because we all know obesity can cause other issues, heart issues,
Yep,
diabetes issues, all kinds of things.
yep.
So does that come into play by maybe giving them this weight loss thing, keeping them away from these expenses.
They haven't been,
Getting another
they haven't been
disease.
out long enough. I talked to Walmart about this as well. We think for cardiovascular concerns, there may be a federal mandate that these drugs have to cover for certain heart diseases. So that's probably coming and your plan will have to comply.
Wasn't there a stipulation it had to be written for, say, diabetes treatment?
It has to be.
And but if it's written for weight loss, it doesn't qualify, isn't that?
Correct. That's the way your health plan is today.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's no coverage unless you have a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. That's correct. But I do think for heart disease, it's coming that most health plans will cover weight loss drugs if you have a certain heart condition. Walmart has estimated it's between 8 and 10% of your claims would be the financial impact if you made the decision to cover weight loss drugs. That's and an aggregate on a much bigger scale using 1 million members. For the group that I insure, it was a much larger percentage than that. It was closer to 20%. So if we're spending, we've spent 1.3 million on total claims year to date. So if we're gonna spend 2.5 million on claims, 10% is 250,000. We're gonna hit $250,000 in additional cost. I think it will exceed that.
I know that those drugs also have you can go to a compounding pharmacy and get them like half the
Yep.
price.
Yep.
So do we have anything for compounding pharmacies maybe? Is there a way to get like a happy medium with some of this stuff?
I think some compounding pharmacies are included in the network. Certain compounded drugs are not. I could ask Walmart and see what their experience is with that.
Right, I mean, cause from what I understand, the patented part of the drug is actually the pen that
Administers.
that administers it, but the other ingredients are very,
Yeah, it's about a $5 cost. The cost for the manufacturer is about $5 per vial that gets
Yeah.
injected. It's basically nothing.
Right.
And they charge $1,000 a month per person.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask that question and see. I mean, Walmart's pharmacy team, they field a ton of questions on this, so I'll see if there's been any discussion on compounding.
yeah,
What the studies that are out have shown that about 80% of people that start it do not continue beyond a year because of complications, cost. Maybe the health plan decided to cover it, realized the cost was more than they had anticipated, and then dropped coverage. Members can't pay it that. Most members can't pay that kind of money to take this drug. But there's a lot of complications to these drugs, stomach issues. I mean, I know people personally that have taken these that have really struggled.
Well, the same thing as statins. Some people are
Yep.
affected worse from taking statins than others. It's a complication because of it.
So I'm very apprehensive just knowing what the potential cost impact would be. And that's what I told the school that did this. But I'm not writing the check for it. I'm just giving, we're trying to do the best due diligence that we can up front. And we severely underestimated what the cost impact would be for that school.
Well, the whole thing it is, when you're on any kind of a medication drug, that doesn't give you the license to live your, eat wrong.
It has to be included with lifestyle changes, and it's really hard for Walmart to know, is that member changing their eating habits? Are they exercising 3 to 5 times a week? It's so much more than just taking a shot.
Yeah.
I think it can be a great way to start a diet, but it's not a way to sustain,
You
a
know, it's
lifestyle.
different than people, there's certain companies and stuff out there, employers that.
Wellness program.
They'll check you for tobacco use
Yeah.
and stuff, but this, you
You
can't do
you
that.
can't do that.
Right.
No, you can't. I think if there was any consideration to cover weight loss drugs, we'd want to make a rate increase, certainly.
is there a way to do a 2-tier? Like with your farm, like do a 2-tier plan? That would give the employees an option to where they would pay maybe more for, maybe certain pharmaceutical drugs would be on that,
Oh, for weight loss drugs?
yeah,
If you wanted to have a higher copay or something like that for the employee, that may be something you could do. I have not had that question yet, but I'm sure it's pretty easy to identify that that's used for weight loss and not type 2 diabetes.
right,
Yeah, I can ask Walmart that. If you wanted to put $250 copay or a much higher copay. Right now,
Right.
your copays are,
Extremely small.
basically nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could ask that question. It's a good question.
Question I got for you. We're running like 1.8. Sometimes we'll push, and for our payout, all and stuff like that, up to maybe 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we hanging in there about normal on that? Are we too conservative with that number, or how do we match up? Is that about where we should be for reserve dollars?
Yep, your total annual expected plan cost is about 2.8 million this year. So if you're over 50%, which is a good spot to be in. I always tell groups, try to get to 50% of your expected plan costs.
That's a good target.
That's a very good target. Yep. Yep. So again, with your pharmacy rebate income increasing dramatically, even with a 10% overall increase, we're gonna be basically funding our plan to what we're spending, based on our premiums today. So if Walmart's increase was 10%, we're gonna be very close to funding what that liability is. Which means you wouldn't have to take any increase, and we would, wherever that reserve starts is where it should approximately end. But if you made the decision to cover weight loss drugs, the minimum I would budget is 250,000 in actual cost. I think we'd want to try to fund that.
Right. Good information to have.
Well,
Yeah.
bottom line is here, we always talk about this, this made not things better for our county, but included in that, we made things better for our employees.
Yeah, you're able to lower deductibles out of pockets, keep employee premiums the same for
Right.
4 years, 5 years now. It's been
That's
quite a while.
That's unheard of. And
Yeah, yeah. You were starting at a really challenging point, and so.
The issue is that we're losing employees, and one of the comments is because of the insurance.
Yeah, and I just, with
I
what
don't
they,
understand
with
that.
what they pay out of their checks. We insure over half the counties in Iowa, and you're in the top 10% of all of those counties. Private employers can't,
That's
Even
it. I
get
know
close.
private employees.
no, they're not
For
even,
private industry, my wife's doing cartwheels. That cost
Well, that's
insurance.
it. It doesn't
Yeah.
have private.
10
I mean,
hours to go to the doctor.
what's the family
Oh,
premium
yeah.
here to be enrolled with full family?
Full family is $214 a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. Yeah,
Are you
They're
gonna be
being-
applying, Wendy?
I've been retired, I've been retired for 8 years and mine was over 300 for a family.
yeah. A lot of counties now,
Tell you what mine is.
Oh, yeah, I can't even imagine.
most K through 12, yeah,
Yeah.
Walmart,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
right under it.
and they can pre-tax that $215.
Mhm.
So their net cost is about $170 a month. $2,000 a year for their full family. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah. That should make people happy.
Yeah, it should make people, I'm shocked you're losing, that's,
Yeah,
I'm very
I'd like
surprised.
to know where they're going and what their
Well,
plan is, where they're
The
going.
last one was Blackhawk County. And their premiums are lower.
Lower than 215, yeah. Yeah, well, most counties, you're beating most counties. We have some counties where employees pay,
You're looking at a bigger county though.
yeah, they have more
Yeah.
belly buttons to spread that cost over, certainly.
But they're just not that far from Buchanan County, so. Get
Yeah,
right
if you live on the
money.
west side of Buchanan, you're about as close to go work there as you are here. Yep.
So, I mean, there's,
Yeah, if you were to benchmark your plan and your premiums, you're gonna be in the top 25% of all employers in Iowa, if not higher, maybe top 10%. You have a phenomenal benefit.
I'm gonna ask a ignorant question here.
That doesn't exist. Especially when we're talking about this.
Does this also cover medical treatments?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the facility claims or practitioner claims are.
Exactly. Yep.
Where would ambulance show?
Facility. That's probably gonna go under the
Under
facility
facility.
claims. Yep. Yep. It's all depending on how it's coded. Some of it will be practitioner when you get into the ER and you have the physician treating you, but most of it's gonna be under the facility.
Right now, we're working on our EMS
Yeah.
ambulance
Yeah.
service. And our current provider here in Independence does not bill Wellmark direct. It's up to the patient. They don't have any working discounts or anything.
Is that owned by the county or is it
No.
a third party?
This is AMR, it's
The third
it's a
party.
third party.
Okay.
I think they're nationwide.
And they do not accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is crazy because it's the
Yeah.
largest
Yeah.
state Iowa.
Yeah. That has
And
80% of the
I think
market.
Charles City is also with them, Floyd County.
Interesting.
But I know when people get an ambulance bill, they have to fight it out
With Walmart to get
Walmart
reimbursement.
To get reimbursed. Clayton, I don't know if you've even approached that yet, but,
No, cause I'm not on the county plan.
oh, okay, you're not on Walmart.
I know them charges are huge.
Yeah,
So they have to submit the claim to Walmart, get reimbursed, pay the provider directly. I don't know why they wouldn't contract with Walmart.
Is
That's,
that because the Walmart's dictating to them?
how much they
what
can
they're gonna
charge.
pay?
yeah, but there's a new rule.
They don't like that.
Yeah, most EMSs across the state, a lot of them are now county owned. I've seen a lot of counties take over the EMS because it was losing too much money.
No
There we
kidding.
go.
Good.
Yeah. So we've had a number of counties that have done that recently.
Those numbers. You should be able to get the coded number.
Or
Ambulance service.
Oh, like,
To get the.
like reimbursement amounts
Yes.
based on the
Yes.
codes?
Oh,
that would be.
If you could get us codes, if you can work with your EMS provider, get the codes that they would submit, we can get the reimbursed amounts. Yeah,
That would be
We
good to
should
have
be
in a
able to.
spreadsheet.
yeah.
I can at least go to Walmart and certainly ask, and I would think,
What are they gonna tell you now?
Yeah.
They're not real easy to deal with.
yeah, they can be challenging.
We've been asking for financial information for the last 3 years and still haven't gotten any.
Right.
But if
On the
it's a
ambulance
grocery-
service? Really?
Oh, with the
Yeah.
provider you're considering maybe taking it over, is that,
We have no ability to do that at this point.
got it,
But
got it,
down
Looking
the
at-
road, that
You gotta-
might be an
We're
option.
jumping through all the hoops now.
got it.
So if you.
Yeah, do you have you wouldn't have to happen to have the ambulance code number?
Well, you would, just for our little group isn't gonna show enough scope. You would need to have all the employers, but what we do need is the codes that they would be billing.
The billing codes.
And then we can find out what the reimbursement rates, and then you need to work with their books and find out what are the occurrences for each code and try to put together a financial
I wonder if
forecast.
the Bing universe, the AI universe would know what those codes are.
Maybe,
AI is amazing.
yeah. I would probably go to them and say, what would be the top 20 codes that would be submitted?
I mean, it's kind of like going to get a colonoscopy, and if they
Yeah.
code it as one way, the insurance pays a whole heck of a lot, and you code it the other way, and it doesn't
Yeah,
pay hardly anything. And
I know of every county that has,
personally, me,
every county that's taken it over, they were pretty fearful going into it, and no one's backtracked on that. Every county, and I think it's not losing money for the counties that have gone that direction.
well, it was that, or they didn't have an ambulance.
Yeah, you may lose the service altogether,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wendy?
Sources. Them with the EMS going.
We don't, I could just give you some names of other counties that have done this.
We've been in contact.
Yeah, I figured you probably had, Yeah, we're just an insurance consulting firm. We don't. Yeah, we don't do anything with like EMS. We can't consult on that.
Which counties have,
Greene County did it recently. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago, but they had a big debate about that. And that was a fairly sizable program that they took over. I wanna say
Benton did,
Benton did, yeah, and that's a client of ours.
Chickasaw, Cassuth.
yeah, but I mean, they got their stuff passed, but are they actually running the ambulance service?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
paying a third-party ambulance?
Greene had the third party and they took it in-house. They kept most of the staff and
I think.
They are running it.
Went for, their own ambulance service, if I'm not mistaken. But they're an outlier weird duck, cause they're twice the geographic of any other.
yeah, they are the two counties that never got split up,
Yeah,
or the county that never got split.
it's real easy to Google. They list all the counties that do it.
Yeah,
A lot of times, a lot of that information, ISAC.
Wright County did it.
I was just curious, maybe if had people who had already done the coding. Had gone.
we never got that involved.
Numbers to number percentages.
Because the code would be the same across the state, so we could call one of these other counties
You
and
would
get that
think so.
code.
Or I could just try to go directly to the payer and to see if they would give me the reimbursed amount. That would, I think, be the best number you'd want. I mean, that's what the biggest payer in the state is gonna pay based on the code that's submitted.
That would be a good number.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these use a third-party billing agent. Which,
Yeah,
so they don't get involved in the nuts and bolts of it. That's why they refer them. You gotta take it up with so-and-so.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, you have no idea how many phone calls I've taken in the last 5 years over ambulance billing. I'm thinking, well, you're the city of Independence, you should be able to answer me, and now I'm at the county, I'm still getting calls, so,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah. Any other questions on just kind of the health plan as a whole and?
No, I think I appreciate it. You give a pretty thorough report back to us and appreciate that. Everything we don't understand, you make sure we understand it before you leave.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take away from this as a whole, as an aggregate for your health plan, it's performing pretty well. It's just we have some concerning pharmacy increases, but it's driven by really 2 drugs.
And there's gonna have to be maybe at some point consideration self to full, what's the best thing to do in the future, and that's kind of.
Yeah, well, and we've always talked about the ISAC health plan and that's running very well. So the ISAC health plan last year had a 0% increase. I anticipate the July 1 of 25 renewal will be 0% again.
Then we'll have to take a look at that, and we'll have to be, how beneficial that would be for the county to make that move.
Yeah, there's gonna be some pain for the employees if we make that move. That's because we have to, you would have to buy a $5,000 deductible and then have a third party reduce that down to the 2,000 that employees have today. So you'd have
Do they
Walmart.
utilize Walmart still?
Yeah, Walmart's the main carrier, but then we would use Auxient, for example. They're a third-party administrator that does the partial self-fund, so they reduce 5,000 down to 2,000, but it's confusing for the employee. Right now, you just have one payer, Walmart, for your self-funded health plan, and moving into ISAC, we would have to do some different things.
There's always a scary thing when you're self-insured, you're at the mercy
Yeah.
of what's gonna happen to your employees, your staff.
Yeah, thankfully with Walmart self-insured, again, your stop loss is all pooled together in the state of Iowa, so you don't have the same amount of risk that you had previously. If Sun Life, your old carrier, was gonna lose $500,000 on your group this year, your renewal would have been huge for 2025. It would have gone up at least 200,000 to 300,000. They would have found some middle point between what they had for current premium and what they sustained in losses. Walmart just doesn't seem to do that, which helps groups that are not performing well for groups that are performing really well, they still have to take a 7 to 8% increase every year. So
Yeah,
they don't love that when that happens to them, but, when you're on the flip side of that, it's advantageous.
I would think our employees would appreciate an easily understandable plan. That's my assumption. Is, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that would be more important than whether it's $20 a month
Yeah,
difference in price.
that transition would be, the employees are not going to enjoy the change.
Yeah.
Certainly, at least initially, they would get used to it over time. The first 6 months would be kind of a rough transition and then it would get better, but it's never going to be as good as what you have now.
Okay,
And I'm not gonna be here to,
Yeah, and whoever's in that position as the director of HR, that's where it would be
the calls
Yeah.
would be.
coming.
Mhm.
well, Amanda wants to apply for that, so. Not really.
Like, no.
Okay, so yeah, I'll have a renewal early October and I'll try to get up here right away once we have numbers
Okay.
and I'll also ask Wellmark if they can release a renewal. I mean, do you have any ongoing interest with this weight loss conversation covering the drugs?
Potentially maybe go into a 2-tier plan or the injectables. I mean, if we can get some answers on that, I don't know. I don't know if there's interest out there in our, how many of
Well,
our,
these.
I don't know
These
without-
are injectables.
Yeah.
Ozempic is.
I know that, but
Injectable.
injectable.
but I'm talking the compounded. Because that comes, it's a compounded medicine. It comes
Oh,
in
so
a
you have to
vial.
use your own syringe.
Right,
And I'm sure that
And those come with the syringes.
I'm sure that there's certain criteria has gotta be met on the BMI or something like that, because, you know.
Yeah,
Some people, you know, if they put on 5 pounds, they think they're obese and overweight, and somebody that's overweight 50 pounds doesn't think that, so there's gotta be guidelines.
There is, but I think 40 to 45% of Iowans qualify. A large percentage are considered obese or morbidly obese. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just the way the state of Iowa is. So,
It used to be 10%.
yeah, that percent has gone up dramatically.
I think it's because of this. TV, computer, lifestyles,
Corn and
I don't,
soybean oil and everything. We love corn and beans, but
you know, I quit eating corn a long time ago because I found out exactly what it does to your blood sugars and how many pounds it can put on.
Really?
So
So
those
that's
little-
my
I love
corn.
I love Mexican, so I love corn tortillas and,
Now, the corn
Corn on the
tortillas I
cob.
do, and
yeah.
Fritos,
Remember, it's
but
called sweet.
There's just so many things, underlying ingredients that they inject corn and soybean oil into. It's crazy.
I know.
But it's great for our economy.
In the back of the
It's
packet.
really, really good for our economy.
I love cottage cheese. I was reading an article today about how much sodium is in cottage cheese, and I'm thinking, oh my God,
You gotta have a little salt with.
I could maybe cut off my blood pressure medicine if I quit eating cottage cheese.
Cottage cheese and honey, I used to always do. Pretty good. Kind of a weird, sounds weird, but it was pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll be back soon.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Safe trip back, or you got any place to stop and wait?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Cedar Falls to have another client visit and then I'll be heading home, so. All right,
Thank
Thank
you.
you again.
bye-bye.
Oh, I think we're up to public comments. You got anything?
Signed up to get the agenda on my email. For some reason, like Brian, he's not here today, but he tried to send me an article twice. I'm just not able to get emails from here.
Oh, encryption maybe.
Chris.
All the time. Nobody can get mine either. So I don't know. How to
It's-
answer
I
that,
think you have to put no secure on the bottom of
but it's
it.
still
It still doesn't work.
not always.
We would have to
I don't know, I'll just leave it at that, I don't know. Somehow I got mine to come through, but I don't. Couldn't get it.
Mhm.
Really?
I added, did you add them to your address book?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's what I had to do to get, add to the address.
Is there a box on it that says, click if this is an approved sender?
I'll look for it.
Yeah, I think it was something,
That'd normally be something, some outside coming into us, though. If
but that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
I just am not able to get them, and he said he tried twice with them, the same article, and, you know, he showed me his phone, and this is your email, and this is it, why don't you put it in, and I'll put it, okay, I'll put it in. Nothing, it went off of his, it said sent, and I'm not getting it, no, not getting the agenda, nothing.
see, I get the agendas on my home email account as well as my county account. And I don't know why that would be different than yours.
It's just a Gmail account, so.
Yeah, that's what mine is.
Common.
Yeah,
I have a copy of
of,
the latest EMS, the EMS plan we did last week.
yeah. Trying to think.
Is that emailed?
Should we have? I guess we can bring it up to Jason and see what he says.
Yeah.
What else?
EMS thing, the better off you are, the sooner you do it, the better it is.
They're starting this week. And I have a copy of their EMS frequently asked questions and, right, that's not on there yet, but,
It's this,
uh,
and we put it in and we can share it.
go ahead and run copies if you want.
Now
I
coming
got
up on
stuff
the,
in there, Dawn.
be coming up on the November November vote. The sooner we can start this and more information, the numbers. Because people don't realize that we are paying out of our tax dollars now to have a subpar service for our community, because that's what we have to have. That's what's available for us. And how much better it could be if we have more ownership
Oh, yeah.
and it's, and a community pride in what is to come.
I'll tell you what, AMR took a transfer yesterday.
The Mayo Clinic.
Jessup had to come over from Jessup and be coverage.
So, I mean, but
And they
I
took
would say
transfer.
50% of the general public probably doesn't understand that. And the other 50% don't know the whole truth. And the more information we can get out to them in the form of a business plan, numbers, better off. That whole process is different.
Yeah, I think this document does a pretty good job of kind of laying out at least the first part of it.
And I would gather, or I would venture to say that if, the billing part of this alone was put to the general public and how they don't cover Walmart. Because if you haven't used the service, you don't understand that
Exactly.
you have to go through that hoop that you're not expecting to go through after you've had that traumatic use of one of an ambulance.
And this is not gonna be a seamless change. we are going to be with AMR in the foreseeable future because you can't flip a switch and order an ambulance because it takes 2 years to build one.
But once you get the money, you can order the ambulance.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah,
it'll be 2 years
but,
and know that we'll have to have patch stuff together for
are you gonna be able to afford to order two or one at a time?
2 of them.
Right. Well, that's just it. You need to put it out there that this is what the plan is and this is why, and these are the dollars.
Yeah, we need to actually put the money to, it'll cost you about 350,000 per ambulance, and then another 100,000 to outfit it. So you're looking at bonding for probably $1 million.
But if the people understand what that why, what's come to this,
Right.
what the past,
Right,
the present, the future.
and that document lays that out pretty well.
Is there someone who is actually in charge of doing all of this? As an example, our daughter is in Colorado in EMS, and, they put a levy out for a boat that they absolutely needed. They wanted to consolidate some, EMS around the street, which would, if you looked at it at all, it made absolutely perfect sense because they're all supporting each other anyway. But anyway, they had, a very, very small faction that had a grudge against the fire department. And, one of whom was on the board. And he led such a campaign against them that they lost the levy. And looking back, if they had actually hired someone who could, put this out there and very fluently put it out there and be very convincing, because this is what they do for a living, they won that levy.
Well, there was a consulting firm that was hired to get us this far. And
It's hard to push people, nobody wants a tax raise. If people see what happens if you don't have the tax raise.
oh yeah, I'm looking at my taxes are built.
But it's a possibility now that if we do this on a short term with a levy, that doesn't mean that levy's gonna be there forever, right? Or use raise because we're gonna be using some of the money or within this 3 years, it's gonna come back,
The levy had passed the last 3 years. And then it would have to be renewed after that. So,
In that time, would the county be considering changing numbers?
very possible.
And that's something to consider.
That's
That's the goal.
actually within this plan is that eventually we might be able to get there.
But the 240,000 that we're paying now, is that about what we're paying?
Oh, more than that.
We're at probably about 500,000 for that ambulance service that we have up there. And we pay 200.
Yeah, we paid 200,000 of it and it's coming out of urban. So it's not coming out of the general fund yet. It's going to.
We can't, as a single entity, we can't afford to pay for an ambulance. It has to be the combination of the three, otherwise we wouldn't have got this far.
That's why the levy is really important, because then if we did decide to start up or take over the ambulance that services independence and outlying here, we would have funding that we could make it happen. It's a problem everywhere throughout the United States. And I don't know if you saw on KWWL where Parkersburg was begging, say, anybody with a pulse volunteer to be on their ambulance, because they have no,
Get volunteers and not required.
and the accreditation had to be certified is ridiculous.
That comes out of your own.
And that's the part of our plan is how to supplement that. Either partially or fully, if they'll sign a contract to stay for a certain amount of time.
See, and now Jessup pays for any training. The city of Jessup pays for the training, for the ambulance, EMT and paramedic training. But you know, your low line, your outskirts cities aren't paying for that. So like Brandon, that's kind of coming out of their own pocket unless there's a fund set up by the city to pay for that.
I think we're getting off track here. We're gonna have to
I hear,
call for an adjournment.
I will make a motion here.
All
Second,
right. Motion adjourned, or meeting adjourned.
you gotta vote for it.
All in favor? Sorry,
Can I have a guy to keep things rolling?
whatever. I thought it was important information that was getting out there.
It was, but
Because the
I'm starting to preach and I better not do that. Yes.